Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about volume. So in my previous two videos, I talked about sets and reps. I then talked about intensity, which is oftentimes thought of as high weights or doing a very, very difficult thing, but not doing it often or not doing a lot of it, right? So high weight, low reps might be intensity. Now volume would be kind of the opposite. We're going to talk about that, why you would do it, and how to apply it to not just weightlifting, but yoga as well, and why it's important in today's episode. Again, before we get started, my name is Anthony Davis. This is Shapeshift Wellness, where we explore the science of fitness, yoga, and meditation. Subscribe to my channel, like this, share it with your friends. I appreciate it. And now let's go ahead and learn about volume in today's episode. All right, so as a review, in our last video, we were talking about intensity. So last time we discovered that intensity was usually looking at, a high amount of weight. So more weight was more intense and less weight was less intense. With a higher weight, you cannot do as many repetitions. But with less weight, you can do a lot more repetitions because the exercise is easier. Or with yoga, we found that just by making the pose easier, you can do more of them and that would be less intense. Or if you make it more intense, like doing a handstand or something like that, or a handstand push-up, especially in the middle of the room, that would be, more intense than most people can handle, but that would be a very, very intense, high load type of situation. Now, today we're going to talk about volume. So volume is more about how much work are you accumulating in total. All right, so hang on to your hats because I'll explain this with a teeny bit of math at the end of this video, but let's check it out. So a high volume exercise would be more repetitions, or more time in the exercise, but it's an easier exercise. So if I was doing bicep curls and for me, let's say I can do 25 pounds and I can do that 12 times, right? And that's, makes me tired. Well, if I drop that down to like 10 pounds, I could probably do like 30 or 40 repetitions. That would be a very high volume training because the exercise is so easy. I could just do them all day. Now that's the extreme end of the spectrum. We don't need to go off the deep end with either end of the spectrum, but I hope that demonstrates the point that you're filling the cup so you get more total work done, but you do it by doing a whole hell of a lot of a much easier thing. So if we look at yoga, in yoga, if we wanted a high volume training, then we would not be doing full depth knees up chaturangas. We would be doing knees down chaturangas and only lowering halfway. Well, why? Because if I do that, I could do a bunch of knees down half depth chaturangas. So if in my yoga class, I wanted to say every time that you are going to hit a chaturanga, which usually, you go through some kind of flow and then, okay, now plant your hands, step back, let's do your chaturangas and then upward facing dog and downward facing dog, right? So in this case, I might say, well, every time I get to that point where I'm going to do chaturanga, if I want a high volume training, I would say, okay, here we go. Let's lower the knees. We're only going to lower half depth. And before you do upward facing dog, I want you to do chaturanga 10 times. Okay. So we just do chaturanga push-ups, right? And we do 10 of them or 15 of them or something like that every single time we get to that point. So you do your 10, you do up dog, down dog, step a foot forward. Okay, you're doing your lunges, you're doing your whatever, totally different stuff for a while. And then a minute later, you're okay, now we're back to a chaturanga. Do 10 more. Right? You see how that adds up. Oh, so I do 10, then I did, I do some other stuff. Then I come back, I do 10 more. That's 20, right? I could do some other stuff on the other leg, come back, 10 more, that's 30, right? And so you can keep building these in. By the time class is done, your students or you, if you're whatever, have done 50, 60 chaturangas. Yeah, they're knees down and they're only half depth. But you've done a lot more work, actually. You've put more load into your pec and your deltoids and stuff like that. So your muscles are actually, that's a lot of training stimulus. So they're going to get more developed and they're going to develop better endurance and better vasculature. So it's a good strategy, right? So it's volume. That would be volume. high volume. So here are some ways, and if you watch my last video, you'll see how I'm kind of contrasting this. So go back and watch that if you haven't, the one that was on high intensity. So in this case, so ways that you might want to, oh, sorry, this says intensity. I should have changed this to volume, okay? Because I used the same slide because I really am just trying to contrast volume to intensity. So high volume, this slide is about high volume. Well, you could do low weight, high reps. You could do a lot of repetitions at a very low weight, or just body weight. So you could do, a whole bunch of body weight squats, and that would be high volume, as opposed to doing barbell squats at a high weight where you can only do like 5 repetitions. Another way is that you could give long breaks. So if you do a set and then you take a long break between that set and the next set, then you will be able to do more in that next set than if you did not take a long break, because your muscles have more time to recharge. Okay, and when I say recharge, I mean accumulate more ATP and some other chemical mediators. It doesn't matter. It's metabolism, and a break gives your muscles time to, quote, recharge. Okay. The other way would be doing long distance, right? So in the high intensity version, I said sprinting would be, that's maximum intensity, but you can only maintain your max speed sprinting for a short duration. Whereas long distance, running a marathon, you're not doing a very intense exercise, but you can maintain that exercise for a very, very long amount of time. And therefore you can run 26 miles. That's a lot of miles, but you could never sprint 26 miles. You could sprint for 100 meters, and that's about it, right? So you can do more work. You can cover more distance. You can go 26 miles with high volume, but you can only go 100 meters with high intensity. So different goals. And the other way that you could achieve high volume is just to regress the exercise. So here this person is doing a knees down push-up. That might be a good way. You make the exercise easier, or you drop the weight or whatever. So you make the exercise easier, you do more of them, and then you have a higher volume training. The question then comes back to, again, why do we want to train at a high? I'm very, very sorry, by the way, this should say volume, high volume. Why would we try to train at a high volume? Well, and again, I said this in my last video, this is the same slide, because the reasons are the same. They really are. Specificity, well, your body adapts specifically to the training that you do. So if you do high volume training, if you want to be able to run a marathon, you need to consistently run long distances, and then you're going to get better at running long distances. If you just sprint all the time, you're not training to run a marathon. You're training to be a sprinter. That's why you look at a sprinter and you look at a marathon runner, and their entire body looks different because they have adapted over time to be really good at that one thing. And the other reason to train at a high, again, volume, not intensity here, fun, right? Some people just really like, distance. Some people just like doing, holding a pose, a yoga pose, and holding it for a minute or two, right? Because it's just, maybe that's what you enjoy more. So if you enjoy longer durations or more repetitions, easier exercises, but more repetitions of them, if that's more fun to you, going on a hike, climbing a mountain is a very high volume exercise, right? If that's more fun for you, do it. If more intensity is fun, sprinting, lifting really heavy weights, if that's more fun, great. So whatever you think is fun is a good reason to do it. And again, same thing, progress for high volume. You are only going to make progress if you push the envelope, push your capacity, push what your comfort zone is in terms of distance. So if you're really, if you feel comfortable running a 5K, you want to try to add, another kilometer to that eventually. You want to push the envelope so that eventually you can do more distance if that's your goal for volume. You want to be able to add on and make progress over time. So the next time that I make a video here on this subject, it'll be about volume versus intensity, specifically more of the scientific and physiological benefits of each one, why you would do one versus the other, and the advantages and disadvantages of each one of them contrasted. But these last 3 videos have been mostly to explain what these concepts are and how to use them generally speaking, rather than an in-depth scientific breakdown, which will be the next video in this series. Thanks for watching. See you next time.